Okay, I'm a little early. I know there's some people that aren't on yet. We will we'll get going shortly. Obviously, one of the craziest days I've ever seen in my life. I don't have words for this. I just have to say this, and we'll bring on Sean Skillen's going to be here in a little bit. There's a picture out there right now of, and I so wanted to talk about infrastructure and Georgia and the election and all that great stuff today, but there's a picture of some asshole in the center of the Capitol with a "Make America Great" on shirt. And the question I have for those people right now is, what are you making great? If we cannot have a peaceful transfer of power, the one thing our nation is known for, if we can't have that, one of the things that made us great, what are you standing for? What is this shit on your shirt? And so I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a statement that most people may not agree with me, but for so much of the country that supported Trump, this might end up being one of the best things that can happen. As awful and as ridiculous, as disgusting it is, you get to see now what the potential of an egomaniac nut job in the White House is. And it's just amazing turning a TV on and seeing the capital of our country overrun with morons. I have some questions on security. I don't know what the hell just happened. But so while we go forward today, we're going to bring on State Representative Sean Skillen. I really wish we could be talking about the new session and sports betting and all the infrastructure stuff with the state, but we can't because we're going to be talking about this Washington stuff. So if you're joining us, I'll open the chat. Everybody's commenting. Thanks for commenting. If you have questions, send them in. We'll bring Sean on. Do I have Sean on now? All right, Sean, you're on air now.
Hey, Steve.
Sean, how are you?
I'm angry. I'm frustrated. And I'm a little scared and want to say a prayer for our country, because I think what we're seeing right now is just totally out of the bounds of anything that we should be seeing.
I've never seen anything like it. I don't know. Again, usually on this podcast, we're analyzing things after the fact, right? So we could be talking about bills or something that can be proposed. So we're getting information as this comes. But we have members of the Virginia National Guard going to our Capitol. We had the President of the United States basically give what I will equate to that final speech of Independence Day, where we will never give up and never surrender, and we're going to keep fighting, which is as un-American as it gets when it comes to the transfer of power. But, I've had people posting questions. Where do you possibly go from here?
Well, let me just say where we are right now. You know this, Steve. I worked for 10 years for Chris Murphy when he was a congressman and a senator. I'm texting with both him and friends that work in that office to see if they're safe, right? I'm asking people that are dedicating their lives to public service, that are young, that mostly make no money, who went to Washington to try to help this country. Whether you agree with their policy or Chris's politics or not, nobody should ever be unsafe at the United States Capitol under threat from people in their own country. We're not under attack from another country. There's no war that we're being invaded by Russia or China. These are Americans fighting other Americans, and it's very concerning. Where we go from here, I pray, I literally just prayed, that today is the day where Americans that are not part of both political factions, that don't wake up every day and just inject Fox News or MSNBC into their body, stand up and say, enough is enough, too far. Because when there's an image of a guy wearing a bear costume standing up on the floor of the United States Senate, waving a flag, we have jumped the shark in a major way. And I just pray that all Americans today, whether you like Donald Trump, whether you hate the man, say enough, too far. We have to do better than this as a country.
I don't. There's so few words to actually describe this, but that is it. And I mentioned earlier that possibly, does this help? I have many times defended Trump on this podcast. I generally, if there's a policy I didn't see a significant issue with, I would defend him. But from a personal standpoint, from the nonstop tweeting, from the speeches he's giving, At what point does the average Republican who and unaffiliated that voted for him and supported him say, enough? I get what the problem was. And does this actually help? At the end, we don't know for sure. It's a little conjecture, but does this help people say, all right, Biden's the answer, let's move forward? Can this be something of a positive, as much as it's ugly now, going forward and bringing some of the country together?
I think it all goes back to Donald Trump, right? I am one of the few Democrats. I can count on half of one hand the number of times that I have talked about him on social media. It's not my thing.
Yep.
I usually don't do it as a Democrat because I think it's exactly what he wants us to do, and I think it only helps him. But I will say this. This man is responsible for what is happening today. And I say that as somebody who's the brother and friend of people who love that man. And I get his appeal politically. But what he is doing today and what he has done since this election is downright dangerous to democracy. And I think today is a day that even people who support him should be taking some pause to think about what he's doing. He lost the election. Every single court in America, even Republican judges, have said there is no evidence that there was a widespread abuse of power or fraud in this election. And yet he continues to incite people every single day to do things. And look, there are demagogues on both sides of the aisle. There are Democrats who incite people to do things. And those people are absolutely just as responsible when things like this happen in regards to other situations. I'm not saying that there aren't culpable people on both sides. But what I'm saying is today, our president is responsible for the chaos that is happening in Washington. And he is single-handedly able to stop this, because if he comes out right now on Twitter, he's got the loudest megaphone in the world and posts a video and says, we've gone too far. I concede. It's over. Go home. Stop attacking the police. Stop attacking other Americans. It's over. I'll run again in 4 years. And if I win, I win. That is the only way this will end. And what my fear is, Steve, is that he will continue doing what he has always done, which is to get people riled up, to get them to look to other people, whether they're different colors, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different states, as the problem, instead of trying to bring people together. And the last thing I would just say is that, I grew up in the house with a Republican father. My dad was a New York State police officer and Marine that served in Vietnam. I didn't necessarily agree with George Bush. Certainly wasn't really around for Ronald Reagan, but these men had character and they believed in the power of their office. And I really, truly believe that if there was ever any doubt that people had about what Trump's true intentions are, today is the day for you to judge what his true intentions are. And his responsibility as a president is to stop what's happening. And I'm really sad that he doesn't do it.
Okay, Biden is on now. So I'm going to raise this a little bit. Let's give us a minute, Sean.
The heart of our republic. An assault on the rule of law like few times we've ever seen it. An assault on the most sacred of American undertakings, the doing of the people's business. Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent, it's disorder, it's chaos, it borders on sedition, and it must end now. I call on this mob to pull back and allow the work of democracy to go forward. You've heard me say before in different contexts, the words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president is. At their best, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst, they can incite. Therefore, I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege to storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection. The world's watching. Like so many other Americans, I am genuinely shocked and saddened that our nation, so long the beacon of light and hope for democracy, has come to such a dark moment.
Well, the one thing we know is Biden's call for these people to pull out is not going to work. What's amazing about this is earlier today, we had Pence basically stand up and say, I'm not joining in with Trump on this craziness. And we had Mitch McConnell give one hell of a speech on basically we're moving forward as a republic. And so this is a question that Biden just made this statement that this isn't necessarily politics. It's a small group of insurgents. I tend to agree with that. I don't think this is, yes, Republicans stayed with Trump for a long time. There could be people who make them answer for that at the polls. But when it came to this, the peaceful transfer of power, it seems like there was bipartisan for support for let's move on, let's have a vote and move on. How do you get a group of insurgents to start acting like normal human beings?
The only person that can do that is Donald Trump, because these Republicans and my colleagues in the legislature, they don't like Donald Trump. They think that he's, they think that he is not the right leader, I would say. And they're afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of his base, and they're afraid of the political repercussions about that. But if you talk to 9 out of 10 elected official Republicans, they do not like this guy. They do not think he's a responsible person. They just don't know what to do about the fact that their voters like the guy. And as you and I have talked about on different occasions, there are many different reasons why people like Donald Trump. Some of that is because they like his policies. Some people think that his policies are working for them. But a lot of people, especially the ones that I'm related to and friends with, they like him because they feel like he's not a politician. And they feel like he tells the truth. And they feel like there's so much political correctness that he's the one that can stop that from happening. Mitch McConnell, any U.S. senator, these guys are not going to get these people to back down. The only thing that's going to get the people to back down is if enough actual Americans stand up and say, this is insane. This is not the way that we should be going. And we deserve more than this, because once that happens, more and more politicians from both sides will stand up and stop enabling what I would consider to be dangerous behavior. Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, all of these guys are Ivy League educated attorneys who obviously know that what they were doing today has no legal basis. It only had a political basis. And if they stop enabling some of the things that I think have caused people to be so angry, then perhaps people will not be as angry. But throwing gasoline on a fire always means that the flames get even higher. And I think we have to be very cognizant of that right now.
Yeah, like some of the comments coming in, I know you only have a minute left, Sean. You have another appointment. Some of the comments coming in are actually, Kathy, who's a regular viewer. While I disagree with what is happening, some people must have felt it was their last resort. The improper chain of custody of ballots and signatures not verified, media censoring conservatives. So Kathy, I'll say this to you. One, our country, you don't go after our democracy when you have a problem with something. There's something's greater than all of us, and our democracy is greater than all of us. But secondly, there's no evidence to support this ballot stuff. There's been nothing presented that makes sense. Republican secretaries of state, Republican poll workers, Republican lawyers all over the country have said, no, there's nothing here. In Georgia, it was Trump going after Republicans saying there was things wrong. At the end of the day, you have Trump, and then you have people who have been in politics and working these things, these polls for years, and they've always been trusted by you. They were always Republican leaders. They were always great. They were always your party until Trump starts yelling things that don't make any sense. And unfortunately, we have, and it's not a huge amount of people, but we have people falling for nonsense. If I told you I could fly, you wouldn't believe me. But if Trump told you he could fly, for some reason, you'll believe him. That's crazy. We've reached nuts on this. So, Sean, from a representative standpoint, from a constituent standpoint, what do you tell local people? I know you're a Democrat. Democrats have kind of ruled this district, but what message do you have?
all of us have the power to put this back together again. And there's a lot of people right now who throw up their hands and say, I don't know what to do. Our country is fucked. I'm sorry for the language, but I just have to say it. And, you know, no politician can save this. They're right. No politician can save this. The only way we can do that is through ourselves. In college, I took this class called Lincoln Speeches. It's a true liberal arts education, I guess. But I read every speech that Lincoln ever gave. And today I keep thinking about his first inaugural, where he said, "We are not enemies." And this is right on the brink of the Civil War in the United States. We said, "We are not enemies." And he asked people to appeal to their better angels of our nature. We have to do that. Each of us has to do that. And the only way this is going to change is if more people at the grassroots level start demanding more from their elected officials and holding them accountable when they do bad things. You know, I saw a couple of your commenters saying, what about the Democrats rioting with us? That's not the answer either, right? Kathy's saying, oh, these people, it's their last resort. It's not the last resort when George Floyd was killed to go burn down your city or riot or attack cops in New Haven. That is not cool either. Just like what they're doing today is not cool. That's not the way to do this. The way to do it is to engage in the system, to get involved. If you don't like what your elected official is doing, run against them. If you don't want to run for office, get a cup of coffee with your elected official. But it's up to each of us to stand up today and say, no more. Whether you like Trump or don't like Trump. Nobody should be condemning this level of violence and this attack on democracy. I believe that he incited this, but he didn't cause this. Trump is an accelerant to this. He's not the reason for this. It's decades and decades of people feeling unheard from government, that their voices don't matter, and a systemic campaign to get them to, to feel like somebody else is causing this problem. But I just don't buy into that. And I don't want to raise my son in a country that is this divided. And I try to do everything in my power, as you know, Steve, in the last 6 years, to not be a partisan person. I hate partisan politics. I hate the fact that I'm even talking about Donald Trump right now, because it's not what I do. But we have to work together as neighbors and communities. And I just hope that if the scenes that you're seeing on television tonight bother you and you don't know how to explain that to your children, my only advice to you is what I'm going to do if my son was old enough to understand this, is to say, you have got to be better than us. The democracy that we give you has got to be better when you give it to your children. And I'm afraid for the first time ever that that's not the case for us. And we have to do more, Democrat and Republican.
All right, Sean, thanks for coming on. I know you have to go, but I appreciate it. Thanks for your input. And if this continues, we may have you on tomorrow, because this is interesting. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, and the other aspect that's key here is that at some point you don't get your way. It's okay to lose. Elections end. You verify, you don't, whatever it is, 7 million votes, Biden won. It doesn't mean your cause is done. It doesn't mean you don't fight another fight. It doesn't mean you don't go run for office again. Burning down buildings because you're protesting, attacking the Capitol, that can't be acceptable. We're going to have Christine Cohen. Christine, you there? Let's see if you...
I am. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Christine. How are you? This is state... no, I'm sorry, not state representative. State Senator Christine Cohen. Thanks for coming on. Christine, what do you make of this this craziness?
Well, it's, a sad and scary day for, all of those who represent us, but for our country and for our democracy, certainly. And watching the images that we've all been seeing over the past couple of hours have been shocking, and something that I don't think any of us ever thought we would see. And I, certainly just right now, and hoping and praying for everybody's safety, and that we can, get things under control. I know, they think they've achieved stasis at this point in Washington, inside the building, and we know that all of our Connecticut delegation, at least, is safe, but it's very scary, very scary.
You're in Hartford now?
Right now, I'm actually in my home office. So
Okay.
we were sworn in this morning. We saw, and I'm sorry I missed the beginning of your show because President-elect
Yep.
Biden came on. I'm sure you had that going in the background, but So I was watching that and missed the beginning. So I don't know what Representative Scanlon spoke about, but we had our swearing in ceremony this morning. There were peaceful protesters there. Not at any time did I feel unsafe. We were all outside, due to COVID precautions, and we heard the chants and rallies in the background, as it's supposed to be. So.
Mm-hmm. And talking to other representatives or talking to constituents, what is the overall feeling as they watch this unfold on TV?
Just shock and disbelief, watching on TV and hearing from representatives that they've been instructed to put on their gas mask, or seeing, people in the pros position as they are escorted outside of the Capitol, and, seeing that they have to be ducking inside the chambers, places that are supposed to be, where democracy happens, where business takes place, the people's business, and everybody should feel safe inside there, being able to represent their constituents. I was watching the news with my children, and we visited the Capitol in Washington in 2019, and my kids were commenting, how are they in there, that we weren't even allowed in there when nothing was taking place, when we weren't in session. And that's right. How are they allowed in there? They stormed the Capitol. This is a small group of extremists that I don't believe represent anybody except this small group of extremists, and it's scary, because it is domestic terrorism, and it really needs to stop. And I hope the president comes forward and denounces it, on TV. I think he had an opportunity to get down there himself and put an end to it. I know certainly he has to, we have to keep in mind safety for the president, but I don't believe he would have been put in harm's way. And I think he could have put an end to it pretty early. I'm disappointed that he hasn't yet really stepped forward.
I'm with you on that. I don't know how anybody with the title of president. Oh, is he speaking now?
Oh, is he?
From us, it was a landslide.
Oh no, this is him.
Everyone knows it.
Earlier,
especially the other side. But you have to go home now.
Oh,
stop the tape. That is not true.
He's nuts. I'm sorry. I mean, he riled up his base so much today.
Yeah.
Saying it was stolen, and now he's.
Yeah,
you have to go home now. We need to have
coming forward right now. It's too little, too late at this point. But it's absolutely complicity. So it's a really sad time.
This is one of those. Yes, we were robbed. It was stolen from us. We were done wrong, but go home. It was one of those apologies, but I'm sorry, but you did me wrong kind of thing. This makes no sense. I just. Most people who watch this podcast know I'm trying to be, in every podcast, reasonable and logical. There is no logic, integrity, honesty, or decency to the president of the United States who is inciting people to do this now. There's none. I don't have words to describe this. I have defended some things that he's done. This makes no sense. And how he's not saying unequivocally this is wrong, take it down, has nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat.
Right.
Nothing to do with that.
No. In fact, a lot of Republicans are coming out and asking him to step forward and put an end to this. Yeah. So, a lot of senators and representatives in Washington. So, we're seeing that across social media.
And we saw today, Mitch McConnell gave a speech. Basically, I was shocked to hear it because it's Mitch McConnell. Yeah. Pence would not jump into this garbage. So. There are people on both sides that realize that there's something greater than one man's ego. And this is getting absolutely crazy. Okay. Well, Christine, we may ask you back tomorrow based on what happens in the next couple hours. I will say, just reading some of the comments, I don't know if you could see some of the comments coming in. I am not going to further information. I don't know for sure. So if people are talking about somebody was shot in the Capitol or something along those lines, I don't know it yet. I'm not confirming that. So I'm not going to say that until we have confirmation from one of the major networks. But Christine, thank you for coming on. The next time we have you on outside this week, I'd very much like to be about policies at the state level.
Absolutely.
And so hopefully we can get to that point. We can get past this without any more violence. But thanks for coming on. And until I see you again, good luck in the session.
Thanks. Be well.
Okay.
Okay.
So, it's hard to even figure out. I'm sorry, I have a bunch of texts coming in at the same time, so I want to go through some of these. The photos are online of the shooting. So by the way, you're asked what channel I listen to. I listen to CNBC. So here it is. Trump tells Capitol rioters to go home now, but still calls the election stolen. What is that? What kind of human decency is that? That's crazy. It's not right. And by the way, to those saying, what about the Democrats when they, or the Black Lives Matter when they same reaction, only this is the Capitol. Same reaction. The protests where they're smashing buildings and people died. There was nothing right about that. They should be arrested. They should be prosecuted. They should do time. But our Capitol is a symbol of what we are. And then the peaceful transfer of power is overwhelmingly what we are. It's that beacon on a hill that Reagan talked about. It's what other nations, budding democracies, look to and say, look, we have a transfer of power between political enemies without violence. And so few countries can say that. We can. And now you have a president saying this is stolen. We will never surrender. We will never give up, as if he's fighting some military battle and pushing his drone-like nonsense followers. Trump did a video that basically said, our election was stolen, but you need to go home now, which is nowhere near enough. This is just, it's absurd. And so I don't really have words to describe this. There's so little to say. We like to have a podcast where we're talking about, here's our facts in front of us, and let's analyze these facts. Here's a bill in front of us, let's analyze the bill. We're looking at news, real time come in, of our nation overrun, where Mike Pence has to be taken into safety. I'm going to hold on one second. We'll get this Trump.
We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country.
Holy shit.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people.
No, I'm not gonna sit here for this. I'm not sitting here for this.
I don't have words for this.
Everybody knows better than this.
I don't have words for this. This guy's nuts. I don't have words. What can you possibly say? He just keeps, it is a tape video. He put this out. It's not live. But Jesus Christ. You reach a point where you're dealing with a level of mental instability. And he's the leader of the country. He's the leader of the country. A ton of texts and messages are coming in. First of all, people are saying thank you for going live. I don't know if I'm the voice of reason, but if it helps locally to have us and have Sean and Christine on and talk about these things, granted they're Democrats, but I don't think at this point we're Democrat or Republican. We're Americans now. And when we see people taking over our Capitol. Now, first, I do have a significant question on how did security let this happen? It feels like we were unprepared for, you had this rally coming, you had people coming all over the place. So I think there are some significant questions on how did security let this happen? Why were they overrun? Do these protesters have weapons? I don't know. I don't know what would happen here. If somebody was shot, was it shot by one of these irritants or by the police? I have no idea. But it seems odd to me that there was not enough security to fight this back. There's a video being shown now in the Capitol, in the well of the Capitol. And if you've ever seen a State of the Union speech, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People are there and opening packages. They're in costumes. They're just sitting in seats. It's just crazy. And so I do have an issue of, where's the security? Secondly, how does a president of the United States, you have to have literally zero respect for the institution that you ran to run. Granted, I don't think Trump ever thought he was going to win. And I put some of that blame on Hillary, that Trump's in there. But I was one of those people that thought, okay, he's a little crazy. He may get in, but he'll listen to his advisors when he gets in. He didn't do that. His advisors dropped off one by one. There was an unprecedented number of turnover because people were just frustrated and left, and often wrote books or what have you when they left. He wouldn't listen to anybody. It was just absolutely crazy. An election happens, the very election that got him in. He didn't question the results 4 years ago. He didn't say it was stolen 4 years ago. Hillary never said it was stolen. So perfectly legal time, everything's perfect, everything's wonderful then. I don't hear any Republicans in this last election saying that won their seats, oh, it was stolen, or they cheated to get there, or people did anything wrong. I just hear Trump saying that. I didn't get my way, and therefore this must have been stolen. But to then rile up this base, to have this rally. By the way, what's the purpose of a rally? He lost. You're asking all these people to come to Washington to have a rally. To support what? You lost. The only thing he cares about is that crowd. The only thing he cares about is that ego. That he's not live. That he's not, and Christine Cohen was right. Go down there. They're not going to hurt you. Walk down there and say, guys, enough. Get out of here. He has that ability. Doesn't want to do it. And then when he does say, guys, we need to end this, but we were stolen and we're victims and this is awful. It's just crazy. And so this is such a drastically different podcast than I'm used to. I so much want to say, let's look at the legal documents and analyze this. Let's look at the wording on a new law and analyze it. But there's nothing to analyze. There's no logic here. And you and I are both going to spend the next couple hours like with our jaw dropped. They have taken over the Capitol. The pictures are here. And just flags, Texas for Trump, 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 Trump. They're not fans of America. They're fans of Trump. Period. Al Gore had every reason to keep a legal fight alive after he lost. And he got up and said no. There were people in his party that said, keep the fight going. And he got up and said no. For the betterment of the country. We could not be further on the other end of the spectrum from Al Gore than Donald Trump, who says, I don't care about the country. I don't care about the rest of the world seeing us a disaster and a disgrace right now. I don't care about our reputation. I don't care about us being a beacon on a hill. I care about my ego. And it seems even some logical people around him who have tried their best can't get to this guy. By the way, this guy was the head of our military. I actually give him credit for this. With this kind of ridiculous egocentric personality, he underused the military. Now, I don't think the military would have responded to half the stuff he said anyway. But this is the guy with his finger on the button. This is what he does. There's no words for this. Biden can't get here fast enough. And you know what? I think if you're a logical Republican, even if you voted for Trump, even if you supported him, there's a reason for you to say now, you know what? Biden's a moderate. He's reasonable. Let's get behind him. There's a reason for that. Because our country functioning, our country maintaining its place in the world is far more important than our political parties. It's far more important than this shit. It's far more important than being right. It's who we are. And this is just, I remain in a state of shock. CNBC reporting at least one improvised explosive device found on Capitol grounds. Jesus fucking Christ. So I don't know what else to say. Unfortunately, Brantford 7 doesn't have staff in Washington to give you updated things, and I'm watching CNBC, and I'll be flipping through the channels in a little bit. This is the best excuse I've ever had not to go to the gym, but I will be home watching this. If there are questions, if there are comments, post them on Brantford 7. If there's a desire in a few hours to go live and talk again about this, I'd be glad to do that. Let me know. To anybody who wants to follow me on my personal Facebook page, you're welcome to. Steve Mazzacane, just friend me, or it's all public as well, or comment here on Brantford 7. I'm going to be on the couch. I think dinner tonight will be Uber Eats because I don't want to leave. And this is just absolutely nuts. Guys, please stay safe. Please think about our country first. Who we are as Americans, not Democrats or Republicans, but who we are as Americans, what it means to be an American. And then also think about what foreign nations are seeing right now. What are they looking at on their news when they see citizens taking over the Capitol? When they see the Vice President of the United States taken to a secure location because he's in danger? When people are overtaking our nation's capital? I don't know. Let's hope, starting now, that we're better than this. Let's hope we let logic and reason prevail, because there's nothing we're seeing right now that's logical and reasonable. Guys, stay safe. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll go live later if there's a need for it. If there's questions, comments, send them over. I'll respond the best I can. If there's questions for our state representatives, send them over. I'll try to send those on as well. Have a very safe, I don't want to tell you have a great night, because this is going to be a sad night for all of us for a long time. We'll be talking about this for a long, long time. I'll see you soon. Stay safe. Good night.